All right, get comfy. So what we've been doing is we're testing two different repellents. And the objective of those repellents is to keep deer from eating the pig food that we're using for bait. And whole kernel corn is pretty much the go-to material for trapping. It's fairly inexpensive. It's, you know, moisture resistant, easy to handle. And so that's kind of the universal pig bait. The problem is, areas like this, there might be 30, 40 deer in the fields around here, and they'll go through 50 or 75 pounds of corn a night in competition with the pigs. And there's also some concerns in some states where, and there's chronic wasting disease in Canada, where they don't want to congregate deer at baited locations to increase the risk of disease transmission. So what we're trying to do is look at, people have used diesel fuel, which obviously has its issues. They try to sour the corn, sit it in water and let it, you know, ferment, to try to keep deer from eating it, but pigs to eat it. Problem is, deer will still eat some of those treatments, and obviously we don't want to put diesel fuel in the environment. So I used to do deer repellent research back during my master's degree in the early 90s. So my brain started thinking, let's just try deer repellent, right? And so that's what we're doing. And so we've got two that we're testing. One is bone meal, which is standard. They use it at fertilizer at garden shops. And then the other is putrefied egg solids. And that's probably been, no, it has been the most reliable and consistent deer repellent since the early 90s. And there's various companies now that use that as their base portion of their formulation. And it's very effective at keeping deer off. If you get an extended winter, deep snow, you may not reapply the repellent often. Deer will eat those plants. But what we've seen here, as you can see, so this is pretty rudimentary, but I don't like to make any additional things that'll get deer nervous. So we have our control pile here, which you can see is completely cleaned up. Used to be a pile of corn. This has had bone meal on it, and then that's our pile with putrefied egg solids. And I've been running this trial here for 11 days, and the deer won't eat either of these. What happens here, typically when you put blood meal on it, you'll see it'll be darker in color, but the raccoons will still come in and forage on it some. And then when we take a look at the video cards later, the crows come in and they'll eat both of these piles. But so far we had well over a dozen different deer feeding here when I originally got them conditioned to the site. And then now that I only put out maybe 3 or 4 pounds on that pile and the rest of the bait is treated, I only have 4 or 5 deer now that'll visit. They'll eat that pile and then they go. So it's been really encouraging to see that we might be able to keep deer off of the bait we're placing out for pigs. But what obviously is most important is if we repel the pigs and the deer, then it defeats the purpose. And so what we found is, running trials where we were just capturing this morning, neither of these treatments have any impact on pigs. I do the same setup and the pigs will come in and they don't go to the control first and then selectively shift over. All the pigs come in and they inhale all 3 piles simultaneously. So the next step is to see if there's potentially any preference between those treatments. Maybe there's some additive benefit, you know, having blood meal on it, or some type of you know, odor, additional odor to it. So we're going to test that next. Not as important. The most important thing was we didn't have any reluctance of pigs eating the treated corn. So we're in a good place, I think, and you know, we'll probably do more advanced trials and more rigorous trials where it would be publishable, reflecting how we can mitigate deer interference, we'll call it, during pig trapping operations.
So just from that position, because I could
Yep.
see you and the corn. Can you just, so like that's control. This
Yep.
is which treatment?
Blood meal, and then this is putrefied egg solids.
Gotcha.
And every morning there's not a scrap left there. And then the video confirms, obviously, that the deer are feeding on this pile, and then the deer will come occasionally and smell these, and they'll turn. And as deer come back in the night, they'll repeatedly go to that location, even though there's no corn left. But they know that's the one spot where they were actively foraging previously. But again, this was only not much more corn than is on the ground now. And I'll guarantee if we look at the video, as it's been every morning, you'll see crows coming in and foraging on these piles, and blue jays and other small birds. So we haven't seen any deer come and actually forage on these 2 piles.
Gotcha. Cool. Doing it.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. Go for it. So what's that you're applying now?
This is the putrefied egg salad. Just put it in a, comes as a concentrate, and then we just dilute it a little bit, just enough where it'll run through the sprayer. So I've also been experimenting doing both. So spraying both with the putrefied egg solids. Obviously I leave my control pile of untreated corn, and then I've been doubling up. I've been putting a little of the blood meal, which is really just a fertilizer. I put that on top just for a little added effect to see if it gives us any additional protection. Camera cards out.
so far the pigs have been going after, they'll just eat anything?
Yeah, so far the pigs will consume both treatments without any hesitation, and the deer have not consumed either of the treatments. We still have raccoons coming in occasionally, so one of my next trials is going to be experimenting with a couple additional additives that may also create an aversion for raccoons. Raccoons eat some, you know, they're more of a nuisance, but if I'm on the trial, I might as well see if I have my cake and eat it. But if we can keep deer off, like I said, for either the disease transmission mitigation or just, you know, at $12 to $14 a bag of corn, and the deer eat, you know, bag and a half a night, and you're trapping for several weeks, you know, you'll pay for a lot of repellent, and, you know, we minimize any chance with any of these traps. There's always a risk of deer trying to get into a trap, so we certainly want to minimize those risks as well. You can actually see behind you a drop trap that the federal government was testing. And
Do you mind coming over and
yeah,
pointing
no,
out?
that's great. So there's a couple different, most traps are made out of metal panels. And the concept behind this trap is instead of the pigs having to go through a gate, right, that drops behind them, the pigs can walk underneath this and potentially being less suspect of it. And then when the pigs are in there, you can remotely release it and this whole assembly drops onto the ground. But obviously a lot more cumbersome than netting, and you still have to stay up all night and actually watch it and hope the pigs come. And what happens often is, as we discussed with the repellents, the raccoons will feed. So all night long as the raccoons are feeding, the motion activated camera is sending you texts. And so you don't have pigs in there, you got raccoons in there. So anyway, there's a lot of different ways to approach it. You saw the trap this morning, and so far we've been, you know, really pleased with how that system's been working. And if we can, you know, my job as a researcher is to do complementary projects to see how we can even be better and more effective and efficient at trapping feral pigs. So that's really, for us, is optimizing how to remove an invasive animal from the landscape, right? And with lowest cost, most efficiency, and minimizing impacts on non-targets.